says we're live, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the Corona Geek on-air hangout, your source for all things. Now it says the video is live. It said it's posting, and then it says it's live. You just never, you can never tell with this thing. Well, anyway, welcome to Corona Geek, your source for everything to do with the Corona SDK and mobile development. I'm joined here in studio by Dr. Brian Burton. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
And Toff Ward. Say, Toff.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm of course Charles McKeever, and we're gonna go through a lot of good stuff today for the Corona SDK. So I'm glad you're here with us. If you haven't had a chance to go back and watch the other episodes, you can see those on our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/coronageek or something along those lines. You can find it over there. We've got several other interesting episodes that you can watch. And if you're not familiar with the Corona SDK, you can find more information about it at coronalabs.com, which is the developers of that platform, and they have a lot of documentation, community support forums, and information over there as well. So, Toff, if you would, kind of take us through the agendas and tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. As usual, we're going to go through our latest build notes. I got a newbie question, as usual, for local versus global variables, because let's just face it, I hit that like a bird hits a window, so I'll go cover that real quick. Some blog highlights about iPhone 5. We've got an app review called JokeShake. A little bit more about the iPhone 5, because let's face it, it's there, it's out now, so everybody's disassembling it and putting it in a blender. I want to personally talk about tabbing and the storyboard, because I went through that literally this week, so I can give you a little tips and tricks of where I fell off the curb, and maybe you won't have to. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good. Let's jump into it. All right, so let's talk about release notes. Now, there's been a few, more than a few releases since the last time we got together, but we're not going to go through all of that because you can go over to coronalabs.com and you can check out the daily builds and look at the release notes over there at your leisure. But the one thing that you will need to know about is that now everything is being built for iOS 6. So essentially, in the Mac simulator for iOS, if you are going to build, the drop down is going to be for iOS 6, and with the idea that everything is iOS 6 is compatible back to 4.3, so you really don't need any other option there besides that. So just be aware of that change. It's going to be maybe a little confusing if you're not paying attention. Let's talk about Corona.
Hey, let me ask: have you guys done a build yet to the iOS 6 Xcode?
We did.
I haven't done a full build to a device through the new Xcode version.
You know, let's see here. I did one. I did one this morning, and I didn't pay attention to what I was building to. Let's see here. Oops, got that on the screen there. So let me see here. If I were to open up just real quick, just takes a second. Yeah, I've got the OnShar app that we're working on here. And,
my app.
Yep. And let's see, if I go to a build iOS, it comes up as no. I guess we're still using. I guess I still have the old version because we have a drop. Well, no, I have I have the new version of Xcode, which I guess this is weird. I have the new version of Xcode, but a previous build of the Corona SDK, so it still has a drop down for 5.1 and the 6.0 GMC. So it was defaulting to 5.1. We built that this morning, and Toff tested his app out, and it still worked just fine. So I don't know if.
Okay, that was my curiosity. You've answered it.
Okay, you think it did something in the background then? You think it's using the 6 by default?
No, I think it's still using because you're using an older version of Corona. You haven't updated to the 9.19 version.
Right.
It was building against the 5.1.
Okay. Huh. Okay. So you think I still have both the 5.1 and the 6.0 on my Or are you just saying that the 6.0 supports 5.1 and so therefore it
Yes.
builds against that? Okay.
Yes.
So essentially I've installed the 6.0 SDK and it's smart enough to figure out what to build it for.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. Cool.
Because you have the older versions installed already on your computer system, it's aware of that as you're going through the Xcode. We'll have to spend a little bit of time talking about the build process. We'll add that to another future episode.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
We've got about 2 years worth of future episodes planned out.
Yeah, right.
I think the long and the short of it, though, is that if you go to build, whether you have an old version of the Corona SDK or you have the latest and greatest, as long as you have, as long as you're up to date on your SDK, it's going to build for the correct version that you're telling it to build for. So you should be good, because the 6.0 is compatible back to 4.3, like we said, so you should be covered. And apparently it didn't break on me when I was just blowing through, not even paying attention, so not a problem there. All right, well, let's talk about the Corona announcements. So what's good going on there? Anybody?
iPhone 5, obviously.
Yeah? What about it? I want to do all the talking, so you come on. Okay.
I've been programming.
You've been head down programming? All right.
I promise.
All right.
Words come hard after programming too long.
Brain fuzz. Yeah. Okay, well, basically we've got a comment over on the Corona Geek, because last time, I think last show, we talked about the fact that there's a new default -586h at 2x.png file that you got to put into your project if you want to build for iPhone 5 and make the device recognize that this is an iPhone 5 project resolution. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Resolution. So
it gives you that extra half-inch of screen area.
Exactly, top and bottom. So we were last show we were speculating as to why was it default 586? What was the rationale there? And basically, Dean Murphy came in, who is the developer of JokeShake, which is the app that we're going to review here in a little bit, and he made a comment that 568 is half of 1136. So he's thinking that maybe that's the non-Retina iPhone resolution, the non-Retina iPhone 5 resolution. So
that could be, that's as good a reason for naming it default 568 as I've been able to come up with. But we should clarify one thing.
Yeah, what's that?
When we're talking about default 568H file name, that is an Apple requirement. That is not Corona.
Oh.
That is not being by any of the cross-platform. I did a search on default 568H, and this is popping up all over the internet as a question as to the inclusion of it, including default-568H at
2x
PNG.
Yeah, 2x.
Yeah, at 2x PNG. Forces is what the iOS is looking for, or actually the iPhone 5 is looking for, to know whether it should go into its higher resolution, the 640 by 1168, 38. Okay. 1136, that's it.
Well, okay, so
yes, I memorized every possible screen resolution and keep it up there, but I have forgotten my parents' names.
Right, exactly. Something's got to go. So only so much buffer space.
Right.
So that's an Apple convention then. That's not Corona. See, I thought that was Corona was doing that. So okay, that's good. Good to know. So anyway, he offered that up, and yeah, I'm with you. It sounds like as good an explanation as any. So he also went on later to say, I asked him if he had updated his app for iPhone 5 yet, and he said I will be soon. Just updating my current app at the moment to take advantage of the larger screen. Works out in Corona that there's 88 pixels, or Corona points, are added to both the top and the bottom of the display, so it's not a straight 176 to either the top or the bottom. So Brian, do you understand what he's talking about?
Yeah, when it's doing the letterboxing, it's doing a 1/4 inch at the top, a 1/4 inch at the bottom. So when that extra 1/2 inch isn't at the top or at the bottom, it's a 1/4 inch at the top, 1/4 inch at the bottom. So your 88 pixels or 88 corona points, however you're measuring your distances, that's going to be put in there as split. It's going to be split between the top to the bottom.
Okay. All right. Well, he was nice enough. He said he created a GitHub config of his Lua file and shared that out. So if you're looking for that, go over to coronageek.com and check out episode 5. And in the comments there, he's put a link to that. Now, I'll also put it in the show notes for today as well, so you can just check the description of this show for that as well. But apparently that's working out for him, so he was nice enough to share that out.
Well, since you're on questions, I have one.
Good. Let's go. Yeah, let's go move to questions.
Typical newbie question. Got hit with this today when I was working on local versus global variables. Now, I've done this in some of the other applications, but I just... Well, let's put it this way. I'm the guy that on Christmas Day quickly grabs the bicycle and assembles it without reading the instructions. That's what I do. Blame me, yell at me, that's what I do. And when there's extra parts to the bicycle, they just secretly get pushed behind the couch and give your kid a crash helmet. That's just how it works. So, when I was wandering through some of my storyboard, because I was going through storyboard and tabbing, and what I discovered is that when you're in all that wonderful storyboard stuff and you try to interact with the tab, you can't. And I kept going, well, but it's here in the example. As a matter of fact, in the actual storyboard example, and let me give credit to this guy over here because he did a really, really good. Jonathan's his name. That's what it is. So let me screen share that real quick. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but Jonathan over here, it was 11 months ago, but it still works. He's got this really good storyboard sample. And in the storyboard sample, he's actually got not just the storyboard, but he's got the tab bar, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm using the tab bar as well because you want to tab between stuff, so it worked out really well. Well, pay attention to this little local word there, because as we go to scene 1, dun dun dun, backspace, scene 1, you walk through, and he's made it to where if you touch the scene, it goes to the next scene. Well, that's awesome. It was great. But I kept clicking on the tabs and nothing was happening. And it allowed me to find out that there's a reason why nothing was happening. There's actually a little function called on button press. And that's what makes you go from one scene, or go from one place to the other, one scene to the next. But the interaction between the tab bar and the storyboard just really wasn't working. One couldn't see the other, at least not easily for me. And the way I discovered the fix was, well, it needed to be a global variable. And so I had to go search up on global variables. So now that I no longer have it as a local variable and I have changed it to a global variable, which, let me share out my other little piece of code here. Dun, dun, dun. If you notice, I no longer have local next to them. And that was it. That was how I changed it from local variable to a global variable, is I just took the word local out. Kind of cool when you think of it that way. But as a background, I would love for somebody to explain a little bit more about the whole local and global variables, just because somebody else is going to get hit with this just like I did.
Okay.
Well, that's a common question for anybody who's getting started in computer programming, whether it's we're talking about Corona or Java or C++ or whatever. What's the difference between global and local variables? So one of the things that we need to think about is that when we are creating our files, we want to make sure that we're we're separating or keeping our variables as local as possible. Local variables use less memory. They're not available throughout the entire system. It's, think of it as a media center in a car that each child can plug into their own media center, and they don't have to listen to each other's music. And let's face it, if you've got one child that's 5 and wants to listen to Barney, and another that's a teenager that wants to listen to Justin Bieber or somebody like that, the two do not mix well. So being able to locate and separate our variables makes it very easy and much more memory efficient. But there are many times when everybody wants to watch or listen to the same thing. And I want to be able to share that across multiple Lua files inside my program. And that's the case where I want to use a global variable as opposed to a local variable.
Cool.
So that's the main difference. Local is local to either your main Lua or whatever Lua file you've specified it in. And in this case, you've got the main Lua file that you started with. And that limits it to either that main Lua file or the function that it was declared in. And that allows memory management to be much more efficient. If I'm done with the variable, I'm done with that function, or I'm done with that file, it will automatically handle the memory that has become available because I'm no longer in that function. A global variable continues to use the memory the entire time the program is running. So it doesn't matter that I've shifted from main Lua to scene 1 to scene 2, I'm still using that memory. And in the case of your tab buttons, that makes complete sense because I'm continuing to use the tab buttons across scenes.
Now you mentioned making the global file, the global variable in the main Lua file. So what happens if you make a global variable in a module or a secondary file that's included?
That is a really, really good question and a very complex question at the same time. When we create a global variable in a file that's not in our main Lua, you need to create it as a _g dot variable name, which kind of backwards adds it back to the main. The danger of creating a global variable in secondary files, not your main Lua, when I create a global variable in my secondary file, if I haven't called that, or if I try to call that variable before it's declared in the secondary files, I'm going to get an error. I'm going to crash my app because the variable hasn't been declared yet. So it's best to keep global variable declaration to your main Lua file. It's just a good programming practice. That way, when you are creating applications that have lots of sub-files, sub-Lua files that you're going to share between other programs, which, hey, that's object-oriented programming at its finest. I do something once and I can use it across the board. If I'm creating global variables in those secondary files, I'm going to create heartache for myself later on.
We're also kind of touching on the aspect of, coupling? You're coupling or decoupling your app. So, I mean, if I were a module developer or something and I created some kind of third-party library, it would probably be best if it were self-contained and didn't require someone to create references across it in their app. That way you could swap it out for something else if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you're creating modules and you're going to pass information back and forth, it's much better to pass any data or information back as a variable or a table of information rather than declaring it as a global and just sending it back that way.
Okay. All right, Chris, does that cover it?
Sure. I'll be happy to move on to the storyboarding if you want.
Yeah. We can go ahead and do that.
Okay. Well, here is the final product before I go too far. Okay, let me do the caveat with final product. I only have like 3 functions for this yet, so it's not really a final like published. But I had been practicing, and I had fun with the storyboard because I had done the director class before, and I wanted to experiment with, well, okay, how does the storyboard work now that it's built in? And I used Jonathan's example, and that was just wonderful to start off with. But his example was not interacting between the tab bar down here on the bottom and the actual map. He had it to where you could do things and interact within the map, but the tab bar never changed or did anything. So that's where I wanted to go back through and make it to where I could actually change my scenes based upon the tab bar. And it worked great up until I tried to interact between the actual map and my tab bar, which is what this little red square is. Imagine that being a city, and you want to click on a city view, so you click on that. Well, my tab bar wasn't switching from, number 1 to number 2. It was staying on number 1. And anytime I tried to reference that to say, no, I want that to be pressed, it would kept coming back with a null error. And that's what I started getting back into the, okay, can't see it. Because the tab bar was set up in the main.lua file as a local, and I was in scene 1 or I was in scene 2, and so it wasn't talking back and forth. So 2 tips I have when doing this kind of interaction. I think one of them is just simple, easier readable code, and the other one was the so hang on. Screen share. There we go. Okay. Oops. Try that again. Screen share. Main.lua.
So the tab bars weren't being wired up to there was already a touch event there, but the tab bars weren't wired up to it.
Right. There were 2 little instances that actually, what I need to do is show you on the sample. There we go. On the sample, get rid of the local, because when you get rid of the local, now it is a global tab bar. You can literally use that anywhere and go back and forth. So that right there made it a total global tab bar. It was awesome. And whenever you click on something, this didn't really tell me what I needed to know. I mean, there's actually more variables in these little tab buttons. So when you go look at the tab bar, it goes, ooh, there's this little on button pressed. I loved that. You press the button, goes to the function, and it goes where you want it to go. Now, it took me a little bit of cursing until I got the logical leap of logic that said each one of these buttons does actually have an ID. Because if you notice, it's got a label, up, down, width, on press, selected. Well, enough cursing gets me to the logic of it should probably have an ID as well. So, yeah, it's there. It just took a little bit of cursing for me to get there. Hence the event.target.id.
But is that target? Is that ID? What is that?
Each button evidently has a default ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it doesn't tell you that anywhere. So I was like, well, screw that. I'm putting a variable in there. And they were very happy about letting me put these variables in here. So if I go over here to my main.lua, you'll notice on my screen, I immediately say ID equals 1.
Okay. So is it one? So the question then becomes: is it automatically assigned? Is there an automatically assigned one, or is that just a matter that you have to set one?
I saw a paragraph that said that Corona automatically set them,
Okay.
But even if they do, and I did not test that, I should have, but I did not test that yet.
It does automatically assign it. I discussed that in my book on chapters 9 and 10,
Okay.
Where I'm making a game that has asteroids and shots fired and all kinds of stuff, and I'm handling collisions by looking at the ID.
Ooh.
So the best way is to assign your own D, just like Toff has done here. That's the easiest way to do it. But the Corona will automatically create IDs. But then if you're trying to identify it later on, what got created, you're not sure what it named it.
Okay. So you can
setting an ID is the best way.
So you can programmatically capture that if you need to.
Yes.
For some reason, okay. Especially if you were doing, I don't know, if you were doing some sort of automated routine that generates objects, and you wanted to capture those and then, I don't know, compare against them somehow. But I think
I made an asteroid game, and every asteroid that gets created is given the ID of asteroid, or small asteroid, or large asteroid, or whatever the case might be, so that I can programmatically look at that. I don't assign an ID to it beyond that. So you have the choice of just simply giving it a name or giving it an ID, and you can give it a name as well. Just call it George, and then you can look at it from there to see, did George get hit or not, and be able to process and look at it from there.
Don't start Toff on giving objects names. He'll have them. They'll get married and they'll have kids, and it'll be
sweet.
Bob picks up Mary from daycare, and
no one will ever decipher my code.
That's right.
Well, I was nice, and I did 1 and 2, ID 1, ID 2, and I did just a quick little if-then. If you click on 2, go to 2. If you click on 1, go to 1. And this whole storyboard.go-to scene, that was awesome. Just FYI. Well, once you're actually in the scene, go to scene 1 or go to scene 2. Obviously, I set up an image, and I set up a few other things. But really and truly, let's see, scroll on down, all this other wonderful stuff here, he's walking me through, here's what happens after the scene has moved. On screen, off screen, he's destroying these things for me. I mean, I didn't have to do any of this stuff.
Okay, so that's all in the example that you used.
Right, this was just copy and paste from Jonathan, so he did great stuff.
Okay, yeah, so put that in the run sheet. We'll be sure to put it in the show notes.
Oh, absolutely, because like I said, it helped immeasurably to figure out what we were doing.
Okay.
Now, I did something a little bit extra, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to create, and there's this little text file. That's my city. No, I'm sorry. Let's go down here to city. See, I named it city. I was very nice about that. I have my little city, so that when you click on the city, it takes you to another scene. Well, I didn't just want to go to the other scene. Scroll down. I actually wanted to, here's my go-to scene. When you click on the city, it goes to there. I wanted to change what the tab bar was pressed on. And that was the one I was showing you, that if I go to the other scene by clicking on the little city, it takes me to the city, which is scene 2. It actually changed the tab bar down below. This is where I kept running into the problem of the local versus global, because I was trying to change this tab from 1 to 2, and it kept coming back nil until I made it a global variable, and life was all good. So I was also curious whether or not, instead of just making it a global variable and doing it this way, if I could have called it from the main.lua file. I don't know if there's a way to do that.
Yeah, we'd have to take a deeper look at it. But
oh, okay.
Yeah,
just throwing it out there in case.
No, yeah, no. I would love to. I mean, looking for suggestions here. I'd like to create a community project that we can kind of share out with everybody. I'm not sure if you want to share out your app that you're working on there, but it would be kind of awesome to have a community project, even if it's something like like the asteroids thing that you're talking about there, Brian, or I mean, just something brand new that we're able to publish it out maybe to GitHub and then talk about it as we go through as these examples, and then be able to reference it back. That way we when we talk about an example, we can say, hey, okay, here, go look at, it's in this project, go look at this code. So anyway, if you have suggestions for that, let me know. I'd be interested to set something like that up.
I was pretty impressed with the storyboard.
The storyboard really helps a lot with that. Actually, I do have a project that just might be perfect that we haven't discussed previously on this, but I've always wanted to do of course, everybody's aware of the ePublish standard that's out there for looking at ebooks. If you've got go to the iBook store, you're getting it as an EPUB. What I'd really love to do is create an app that allows you to pull in EPUBs and be able to add more sophisticated quizzing or testing or movies and all kinds of things like that. Something that was very easy to do, but makes truly interactive ebooks based upon the EPUB format, but delivered through Corona. So maybe that would be a neat little project. It's kind of an academic type exercise because it allows us to make a lot better e-textbooks and sell them as apps instead of being dependent upon the iBook author or iBook store or something like that. So.
Okay, yeah.
Something we can discuss.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I think it would be good to have a project that we could all reference to, and everything, no matter what you're building, it seems like you're going to wind up with tab bars and storyboard and all these things are going to be common. So it would definitely include something like that. All right, so let's go on and look at real quick here the Corona blog highlights. Essentially, there's the iPhone 5 and iOS 6 FAQ is out there on the blog now. So if you have questions about how what you should be doing in order to get get your device to build for iOS 6, or how you should handle making, like we talked about before with the special files, what you need to get the iPhone 5 to work the right way. That's all going to be out there on the coronalabs.com website. So what we'll do is we'll put a link to that blog post in the show notes so that you can go check that out, because it's a great FAQ to read through. Probably only take you, depending on how slow you read, probably only take you here. There you go. That's up on the screen here. Probably only take you a couple minutes to read it, but it's a real good FAQ on that topic. So go check that out. All right, Toff, do you have the JokeShake? Can you pull that up on your? Do you have that?
Will do.
Yeah, that'd be great. So basically, like I mentioned before, one of our community members, Dean Murphy, he left some comments on the blog on the site, and he was talking about his app. And I asked him, I said, what app is that? What are you doing? And he's got an app called JokeShake. So let me pop over there. You get it up on the screen? Yeah, scroll up just a little bit, Toff. Yeah, so JokeShake is an app that it's a kind of a magic 8-ball kind of app. It's all built in Corona. It uses the accelerometer. So essentially what you do is you fire this thing up. Scroll up just a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. You shake the app, and it gives you a joke. And which I know that the concept is extremely simple, but I like it. I just like the simplicity of it. I like the fact that this app demonstrates all the things that you can do with Corona. I mean, not all the things, but a lot of the good qualities, things that you can do. I mean, we've been talking about tab bar. So all down at the bottom there, you've got your tab bar for your share, your submit, all your different options at the bottom. And so so you shake this thing, it gives you a joke of the day, and the first category is set to kids. So so you get a bunch of jokes, and they're all kind of the kid level jokes. And if you want, you can go in and click on the store icon on the right hand side there. You can open up and do in-app purchases. So if you want to take out the ads because the app is free, but it's ad supported. You can remove the ads. You can buy different joke packs. So you can buy a Doctor. I assume the Doctor is like, hey doc, I can't, it hurts when I do my arm this way. Don't do your arm that way. And it's had your mama jokes, which I think is hilarious. And then adult jokes, which I think those are a little more risque, but not. When I saw the demo of it, I didn't see anything that was completely offensive. But if you want, you can go in and submit jokes. So they've got an option there where you can submit, hit the submit button, and it'll bring up a in-app form where you can email jokes to Dean, and he can. I assume if he likes them, he'll put them in an upcoming release or something. But this is for iPhone, iPad. I assume it's for iPod. It didn't specifically say that, but I'm assuming that it is. And I don't know. I just like it. It also has some sound effects in it that you can play if you want to kind of play those after you tell a joke or something.
I like the built with Corona badge.
Yeah. Some of these, some apps, they don't necessarily tell you what they're built with. They're not really kind of, they're not really gonna say, like built with Xcode. I mean, they're just gonna. But yeah, he gave credit to built with Corona SDK, so that's pretty cool. But the app's well thought out. It's a extremely easy to use, and I don't know. I like it. I'm impressed by it. There's a lot of things in there that he used that were Corona SDK features, like the email and the SMS. He even has when you do this, there's a share function there on the left-hand side. If you tap on the share button, it'll let you share things via SMS and Facebook. So if you want to share things out that way. So the Corona SDK, of course, supports Facebook interaction, accelerometer, in-app purchases, for the he's multimedia for the sounds. He's using the widget API for the tab bar. And I don't know if I don't know if he's using the storyboard for the transitions between things, but he's got different transitions between the jokes and things like that. So, Brian, do you have to use?
I'd love to know how long it took him to build it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can get him to tell us a little bit more about the development cycle on that. But yeah, I'm assuming it probably uses a database to keep the database of the jokes, things like that. So it's I mean, like I said, it may come across as just a sort of a magic 8-ball, sort of a simple little app, but there's a lot of horsepower going on here. A lot of muscle, a lot of code muscles being put into this. So I was impressed by it. All right, I'm gonna create a full review of that on Corona Geek, publish it out as a video with links to all the resources and stuff. So if you feel like being awesome, you can go over to coronageek.com/JokeShake, and you can go directly to his app, download it, and give it a test drive. All right, let's talk.
And one of the best parts about that is we now know at least one person is viewing these after they're created.
Yeah, that's right. It's a shameless way to gain a viewing audience.
Yay!
All right, so let's talk a little bit about device news and then kind of move on. So the iPhone 5 came out. I've got mine. Absolutely love it. Been using it all weekend. Battery life is great. Thing is, I think it's definitely twice as fast as the previous hardware. I didn't have the 4S. I had the 4, and it works. It definitely beats the 4 by a good margin. I stood in line on Friday, and it was Toff was with me. It was a fairly short line.
15 minutes.
There was no scuffling, nobody, no fights. Yeah, 15
I mean,
minutes.
the cop pulled the guy off of Charles really fast. So I mean, it really wasn't a problem.
So one of the guys from the Apple store, one of the Apple geniuses there, he brought out a cart, and he had coffee and water, and I guess tea and all this, and it was just kind of going down the line offering people refreshments and stuff, and this lady comes up and she says, "How much is the coffee?" And I said, "Oh, you get a free iPhone 5 with every cup of coffee, but the coffee costs $600 a cup." So that was fun. Everybody was in good spirits. But I did see in the news where 191 iPhones were stolen before, and that was just in one location. Apparently, there was a couple hundred that were stolen in another location, and so it didn't go down without any kind of, without any hitches, and so I don't know. I like mine, but I wouldn't glue it to the ground. Did you see that? Did you
Yes.
see that video? Did you watch that video? It's hilarious. Somebody took an iPhone 5 in Amsterdam and glued it to the ground, and then they videoed people trying to pick it up. And people were like jumping up and down on it. At first they were just kind of like, oh, it's glued to the ground. And I guess immediately people get it, that it's a joke. And then people were just like kicking it and jumping up and down on it, and they were just trying to get it up. So it's pretty funny to watch. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And then there was another one we'll put a link to. It's the iPhone 5 versus the Galaxy S3 drop test. Now, I don't know about you guys, but these are like gut-wrenching videos for me. I hate to see these devices abused. Even though I'm curious, it's like a train wreck. I can't look away. I still hate to think that all that engineering and effort and time went into creating something that a computer in your pocket, and then somebody's just going to go out and purposely drop it on the ground.
Yeah, I really don't understand the whole putting the device in a blender and seeing what's in there.
Yeah. Well, the blender, Blend Tech, I get it because they're selling blenders based on the strength of the the device, but
that's an expensive commercial to create.
Yes. Well, but it's genius because it gets everybody to go over and watch. Like I said, it's a train wreck. You can't not do it. But I don't know. I don't know. People want to know how tough the thing is, if it'll survive the drop. But it's still hard to watch. It's like, I don't know. It's like a kid drop test or something, do your kids bounce when you drop them? I mean, it's like, it's gut-wrenching. So anyway, my next question, my last thing I want to talk about here for device news is, what do you think about the maps? What do you think about Apple dropping the maps from the lineup? The Google Maps. You think they should have gone with their own brand of maps?
That's a tough one. I can tell you, I've got to still have the iPhone 4S, and I have not upgraded to iOS 6 because of the map issue. If I'm out traveling someplace, I need accurate maps. So, but then again, I'm also the guy that when I'm upgrading my PC, I don't buy until Service Pack 1 from Microsoft is out. So, if I'm working on a production system or using something in production, I tend to wait until most of the bugs are fixed before I'll upgrade. I did look at some of the complaints, and it's completely legitimate. Basically, they've texture mapped onto a terrain, and it's following the terrain. It's it's a common problem that can occur, that if you haven't built the material to handle it correctly, you're going to get some funky results.
Wow, I like his excuse for not upgrading a lot better than mine. I'm just a lazy bastard, and I've not upgraded to iOS 6 yet. So,
Toff is the one that they say, we're no longer supporting what you're on. You have to move. You don't get a choice. It's Tuesday. You have to upgrade. So yeah, well, for all the fluff that's gone on, I really wish that they would just have left Google Maps, because it call it playing as a good citizen. I kind of like the idea that you play well together with others. And but Google Apps aren't accurate. I mean, not to the. I mean, I understand it's like you say, it's sort of a visual thing and texture mapping and all that stuff like that. But I've had plenty of instances where I've shown it up at a location, and it's not on this side of the highway; it's on that side of the highway. So I don't know if they're any more accurate, really, in every instance. But it certainly, like I was telling Toff earlier, it highlights my deficiencies if I make a big. If I make a big high-profile decision to remove something and then
don't deliver,
it's less than perfect. Yeah. It's sort of like please take out a big full-page spread that says, "Hey, our stuff isn't nearly as good as those guys." So, I think that was kind of a faux pas on their part. Let me just say, when the Google Maps app comes out, I'll be installing it on my iPhone.
Now you've tested it on your phone. What was your opinion of?
Well, okay, so when we used it in the store, It was phenomenally accurate. I mean, it told us exactly where we were, and of course, I was in Dallas, so there's an LTE network in Dallas, and it was really fast. It rendered really fast. The 3D is nice. I mean, it's a great app. I don't have any problem with the Apple Maps, as as such. They definitely need to fix their issues, for the broader market. But it rendered really fast. It's attractive to look at. I didn't have any complaints in that respect. My complaint really is just a matter, again, of trying to create an island unto yourself. And I'm a little afraid that eventually Apple's going to get to the point where they've burned all their bridges. they've screwed everybody, and nobody's gonna, what's the what's his name? Oh, I can't remember his name at the moment. But anyway, he does this video and he does it all the time, and it's funny. And he says it's something about you being the having the shiniest shoes at the party, but you're kind of an asshole, so nobody wants to hang out with you. So it's possible for Apple to paint themselves into a corner, and be completely I don't know, walled off from everybody.
Well, the phone, I mean, I saw the phone, obviously. Phone doesn't impress me. The LTE did.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my phone, and he's got his phone, and we both do the little speedtest.net. Boom. He's done.
Oh,
and it was faster than my home network.
It went 20 meg. It went 20 meg.
Wow.
Yeah, on the LTE, it was blindingly fast. It was incredible. I was really amazed. And even even once I got away from the city, I still had 4G. I mean, so I have 4G for everything that I do now, which for me is a step up because I had 3G prior to that. But the LTE is awesome. But you got to be in an area that has it.
Phone hardware, I've got the 4S, so really can't justify upgrading. But when we're sitting next to neck, I mean, I'm getting like 0.15 as my speed. 0.1, that's like 0.15, and he's getting 28.15. It's just ugly. Yeah. I mean, really.
And I didn't do the sync to move all my apps and data over because most of my stuff is in the cloud, either Dropbox or Google Drive or iCloud or something like that. So most of everything is someplace off of the device, and so I sat there and just reinstalled all my apps because I wanted to bring over just the apps that I really used instead of the 100 that that are installed on my old device that I didn't really use, and I was able to sit there and I brought them all down while we were waiting to be served. So it's really good. I like it. It's a like Toff said. I mean, it's a 10% upgrade as far as screen size is concerned and things like that. But as far as speed and getting things done, it's a nice device. I definitely am enjoying it. Okay, so let's go on. We talked about the API.
Well, let's do include that Toff and I are willing to upgrade to an iPhone 5 as soon as Apple
evaluation devices.
Yeah, yes, some evaluation devices.
Your device on our show, I promise.
And that goes for iPad Mini, HTC, Galaxy. Any of these devices you want us to review, we're there for you.
And we will not put it in a blender.
That's right.
I don't think the iPad Mini is going to fit in a blender. Okay, so we talked about the API Spotlight. Are we good with that? We're gonna count that as our okay. All right. Well, then let's move on to our closing thoughts here. Thanks guys for being with us today. That's kind of all we want to cover. As usual, you can join us every week here at Corona Geek, 2 p.m. Central. Whatever that is, your time. We're here Mondays. We're gonna do it every week. And if you have any questions, you can send those to questions@coronageek.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/coronageek. And of course, we're here on Google Plus all the time, and we would love to hear from you. So if you have any apps that you would like to suggest for review, if you would like to leave any comments, if you'd like us to talk about a particular part of the Corona SDK, let us know.
Or example code.
Or if you have example code you want to share, that's awesome too. If you want to share it, or if you want us to cover something in particular, let us know, and we will try to feature that here on Corona Geek. Is that it? We good?
Sound good?
All right. Until next week, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye.